What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast and apologies for the incredibly late video. It took me many hours of grinding to get two somewhat decent IV Shadow Tyrants to use for this video, and by the time I managed to do all of that plus get the battles done, unfortunately I had plans in the evening. So it's now 3 AM as I'm putting this video together, and I do apologize as well. I'm probably not going to be quite with it with the commentary, however, of course I do pretty much forget how to speak in every single video anyway, so it's probably not going to make too much of a difference. But yeah, Shadow Tyrant, brand new to Pokemon Go, and of course in the Retro Cup there is not a single Pokemon that resists the dragon type damage, so this duo certainly has some play. In my opinion, Tyrunt is so much better and easier to use than Tyrantrum, as it's got a cheaper charge move in Dragon Claw, whereas Tyrantrum just takes so long to get to the charge moves. I was so determined to land some Meteor Beams and just completely nuke Pokemon, but unfortunately, like in positive matchups, like for example up against a Talonflame, by the time you reach a Meteor Beam, you pretty much just fully fast move farm them down anyway, so it's kind of just pointless. But anyways, with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Are you seeing much variety in the Retro Cup, or does the meta already feel stale? Last night I was watching Homesize Henry's stream, and pretty much every single team had a Grumpig and a Ferret together, including the one he was using himself, plus the one he showcased of King GBL's Legend run, and then push well above Legend as well. Basically, it's just every single team, it looks like, in the higher ELO brackets does have that core together, and then just a random third Pokemon. For me, I was seeing a little bit more variety, as I'm pretty low in ELO right now. I tried to use 40 different animal theme teams the other day on stream, and it didn't go too well, so I'm pretty low in ELO. But anyways, let me know what you think, and with that being said, let's just get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Gyarados into Goodra. So of course, I'm not a Dragon type Pokemon, so I'm only taking neutral damage here, but I am hitting for non-stab damage. With my Dragon Breaths, I'm able to swap, catch what I'm hoping to be a Thunder Punch, and it is. So that's resisted damage, but the opponent hard punishes me with a Poliwrath, a Pokemon honestly I did not expect to see. But we go for the Dragon Claw, they no-shield that, and now that means I can come in with my Gyarados, and of course, my charge moves are going to be resisted, but they're in range where an Aqua Tail should get the KO. They will run away, so I go for two Dragon Breaths there, fire off the Aqua Tail on the CMP tie, and I'm able to win CMP. At this point, I'm definitely also going to shield here. The opponent fires off the Icy Wind, and then they swap back into the Goodra. I stay in, I get the full farm down. They come back in with the Poliwrath, and I realize they're probably weak to Gyarados in the back, but they're also incredibly weak to the Tyrantrum, and this is what I'm talking about here. We've now got the energy for the Meteor Beam, but it doesn't matter at this point because I can shield up the fly. 3 more Dragon Tails, gets the full farm down. I didn't even need to throw a charge move there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into next battle. Going to see a Jellicent in the lead. So, a bit of an awkward matchup for me. Of course, I will reach the crunch as the opponent reaches a Shadow Ball or potentially an Ice Beam here. And the opponent is actually on Ice Beam. So, that is something that I do need to be wary of. Of course, if I'm going to try and make a catch onto my back Pokemon, it's not really going to work out for me if it is going to be super effective with the Ice Beam. So, here, I actually undercharge this just in case the opponent no shields, because I realized Aqua Tail wouldn't quite get the KO from that range. So, I would be able to farm them down with my back Pokemon, but now we can just come in with the Tyrantrum, go for the Dragon Tail farm down, and the opponent comes in with a Whiscash. So I'm going straight for Crunch here. Crunch, not the best move, non-stab, but it still does respectable damage, and at this point I'm just going to let the Tyrantrum go down. The opponent fires off the Mud Bomb there. We can come in with the Tyrunt, go for the Dragon Tail farm down just before they reach a move, and their final Pokemon going to be Altaria, one of the bulkiest, well actually probably the bulkiest Dragon type Pokemon in this meta, but that Ancient Power does huge damage. We get the Dragon Tail farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's to there into next battle. See a Dunsparce in the lead, so not really ideal for me. I'm going to stay in initially and then try to catch a Rock Slide onto my Tyrunt. The opponent is going to fire off the charge move, and it is the Rock Slide there. So that works out for me. I also swapped one turn early, so I would have outpaced the opponent to throwing on CMP there and winning CMP. So the opponent swaps out, banking a bit of energy, coming in with their Primeape, and unfortunately getting a huge farm down just before I do reach a second Dragon Claw. Now, unfortunately, Gyarados going to be losing CMP in this matchup, so I do not throw straight away. I believe they're one away from back-to-back, so I'm going to go for just a single Dragon Breath, fire off the Aqua Tail here, hoping the opponent does just no-shield this, and they do let it go through. We can now come in with the Tyrantrum here, and I'm definitely just going to shield this. The opponent should not be able to reach back-to-back charge moves, so Tyrunt grabs my first shield, we get the full farm down, and the reason we're able to do that is because they've got a Talonflame in the back, so I will be going for the Meteor Beam. Of course, the opponent is just going to shield this, but it doesn't matter. Once again, I will now just be able to fully Dragon Tail farm down the Talonflame from this range. The opponent fires off the fly, doesn't help them there as I can shield that up. One more Dragon Tail, gets the farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. You can see a Grumpig in the lead, so this could be paired with a Furret. It's pretty likely here. We're going to go for the Aquatail just before the opponent does reach a Shadow Ball. Now, unfortunately, I believe they will outpace me to the Shadow Ball just before I reach a Crunch, which is why I go for the Aquatail there. But either way, the opponent fires off the Dynamic Punch there, because from that range, they put me into range where unfortunately a resisted move does get the KO. But we can come in with the Tyrunt, gonna shield the Dynamic Punch, get the farm down, get an energy advantage, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent is thinking about coming in with the Aurora, so we're going to go straight for the Ancient Power here. I'm not going to bother baiting. Ancient Power is unfortunately shielded. No boost there, and spoiler alert, I did not get a single Ancient Power boost with my Tyrunt, which is a little bit unfortunate there, but I didn't throw it too many times. But the opponent makes a really nice catch there, catching the Ancient Power onto their Furret, and that actually really does not help me, because now I'm forced to swap out into my Tyrantrum, and I should be able to tank this, but whether I can actually Dragon Tail farm them down is a different story, but I'm just barely able to do so. But we don't come out with the Meteor Beam. I have to go for Crunch here. Crunch is not enough damage. They're able to farm me down, and as a result, they actually come out with the Weather Ball loaded. Weather Ball easily taking out the Tyrunt, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We see a Digger's Beat in the lead, so a great matchup for me, unless they're on Hyper Beam, which is quite unlikely, and the fact that they're throwing straight away is a pretty big indicator that they're not on Hyper Beam. So, I'm just going to no-shield this, fire off the Aquatail. Aquatail is going to be no-shielded by the opponent. I don't think I will quite get the farm down, so I swap, I catch a double resisted Fire Punch onto my Tyrunt, and it is an ABB style team, so I kind of need to swap out anyways to bait out something in the back that my backline might be weak to, but either way, we are going to see a Feraligatr coming in. So I'm going to fire off the Dragon Claw there, and the opponent is actually going to allow me to get a full Dragon Tail through, but instead, I'm actually going to save my shields, come in with my Tyrantrum, and hopefully I can land a Meteor Beam into whatever they've got in the back. So the opponent, of course, will be reaching another Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon is neutral damage up against the Rock and Dragon typing, and the opponent's final Pokemon is going to be an Ursaring. So unfortunately, whilst Meteor Beam, yes, that would be massive overkill, there's just no point in throwing it there, so I'm going to swap out, grab the final shield. We do lose CMP, doesn't really matter at this point, of course. Aquatail is going to get the KO from this range, and I can't even remember what was in the bag, but it doesn't matter. A couple of Dragon Breaths takes out Feraligatr, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. See a Blastoise in the lead, and I will admit, the entire time I was doing this battle, I was singing in my head, small man Blastoise, because obviously, you know, the lyrics is big man Blastoise, but that is actually a very small Blastoise, which is just funny to me for some reason. It also might be the fact that it's like 3 AM here, so I find it even funnier now, but either way, the opponent's going to swap into Cradilly, and we are going for back-to-back Dragon Claws. Dragon Claw, unfortunately, not the best move there, not really putting them into range where I can farm them down. The opponent actually gets the farm down instead, but I should be able to farm down with my Gyarados, so I'm going to wait out the switch clock here. Don't want to reveal my final Pokemon just yet. They come back in with the Blastoise, and I will outpace them to a charge move. Honestly, I'm just hoping they throw an Ice Beam straight away, and the opponent is finally going to throw a move. So at this point, I no-shield. It is the Ice Beam there. It gets the KO. We come in with the Tyrantrum, and I don't think they've banked a charge move there. And again, it's going to be a Talonflame in the back. So we're going straight for the Meteor Beam. Meteor Beam, going to grab the final shield, and all I need to do right now is shield this up. If they go for Brave Bird, actually, that would do quite a lot of damage, and maybe one more Incinerate would get the KO, but we get the farm down there. But Blastoise had a charge move loaded. Oh, if only I counted the energy instead of just singing Small Man Blastoise. Maybe I could have kept track there and known not to shield up against the Talonflame, but either way, GG's to that trainer there. Into the next battle, I'm going to see another Grumpig in the lead, so we are going to, unfortunately, be caught onto a Galissapod. Very nice catch there. No, not really ideal for me. The opponent is now going to be outpaced to the next charge move. We throw on CMP here. Aquatail just barely doesn't get the KO there and making a brilliant catch and then surviving with 1 HP and a dream. This battle is not going very well so far, but let's see what Tyrunt can do. We get the farm down. They come back in with the Grumpig, and they do throw just before we reach that charge move, so very good timing by the opponent. I'm now going to throw straight away just because if I go for 1 extra Dragon Tail, they will actually outpace me to the next move, and at this point I think I will probably just let the Tyrunt go down. Nope, never mind. I'm going to double shield here, and the opponent's final Pokemon is going to be a Clodsire, so this is going to be incredibly difficult for me. You can see Dragon Claw just doesn't do that much damage up against incredibly bulky Pokemon like the Clodsire. Now, I try to throw on CMP. The opponent does not throw straight away, and honestly, I don't have a clue when they're going to throw, so I randomly swap out there, and I'm able to perfectly catch the Earthquake as they full send the Earthquake there, and that allows me to win CMP with the Dragon Claw. And from this range, Dragon Claw does get the KO. They come back in with the Grumpig. I'm able to Dragon Tail farm them down, and honestly, that might be the luckiest win of my life. Like, I just randomly swapped out there, made the catch, and I'm able to take that game. But GG's to opponent there into next battle. See a Dunsparce in the lead, and once again, gonna swap into Tyrunt to catch the Rock Slide, and the opponent does go straight for that Rock Slide. So at this point, we did not swap out one turn early, so they will actually outpace me to that next charge move. So now, we're gonna shield this up here before the opponent swaps into a Feraligatr. Now, if the opponent does not throw pretty much straight away here, I will actually reach a second Dragon Claw, so that's great for me, and my Switch Lock is now coming up. So what I'm going to do, come in with the Gyarados, and I'm able to get to the Crunch before the opponent has time to react. Crunch gets the snipe there. They lose all of that energy. They come back in with the Dunsparce, and Gyarados still able to outpace them to the Aquatail, winning CMP here. Aquatail gets the KO, and their final Pokemon going to be a Skeledirge, and I can just go straight for the Aquatail. And unfortunately for Tyrantrum, didn't even have to do anything for this battle as we get the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up in there, into the next battle. You can see another Dunsparce in the lead. So once again, going to do the exact same thing here. Going to swap out here, trying to catch the move onto my Tyrunt. And once again, we are going to... Actually, no, never mind. They go for the Drill Run there. That is an insane read on the opponent's end there. Maybe either anticipating that either I'm going to shield my Gyarados 100% or I'm going to try and swap and make a catch. And either way, it works out perfectly for them. I could not believe that at the time. Honestly, I was just thinking, like, does this opponent not know their typings or something? But no, I think that probably was intentional. Now we're going to come in with the Gyarados. We get the farm down, and they come in with an Oranguru. So at this point, I'm going to fire off the Aquatail here. Aquatail is going to grab a shield from the opponent, and now I can reach a Crunch. However, I throw on alignment. Honestly, I just thought the opponent would go straight for a Brutal Swing, and it backfires massively, as unfortunately the opponent does not. Instead, they get the full confusion through. Now we come in with a Tyrantrum. I'm just going to double shield. I feel like I can beat anything up on energy with my Tyrantrum. Anything except a Primeape, as unfortunately, they're still able to outpace me by one turn. Rage Fist gets the KO there. And unfortunately, I do lose that game there. Of course, if I throw it on better timing with my Gyarados, I probably still lose anyway, so I don't think it was necessarily down to that. It was just unfortunate that was the one thing that could beat my Tyrantrum there when I was so far ahead on energy. But either way, GG's to the opponent there into the next battle. We see a Zangoose in the lead. Now, I know shield the Night Slash. We fire off the Aquatail straight away, and now I'm going to swap into my Tyrunt, and the opponent comes in with a Hex Frost Sash. So this is actually not that bad for me. I'm going straight for Ancient Power. Ancient Power is not respected. It gets the one shot, but they come in with a Charm Gallade, which is very surprising. I'm going to wait out my Switch Shock here, then come in with my Tyrantrum. We take super effective damage, but we still get the Dragon Tail farm down, and that's going to be game over. I can just safely shield this up here as the opponent fires off the Night Slash. We can Dragon Tail, farm them down, and so the opponent just concedes the match there. So, GG's up on there, into next battle. We're going to see a Shadow Venusaur in the lead, so not really ideal for me. I have 3 Pokemon that take neutral damage from Venusaur, but they swap into a Jellicent, so not too bad for me here. Of course, the opponent is going to be able to hit for neutral damage with the Surfs as well, but I'm able to reach back-to-back Dragon Claws as the opponent is reaching either an Ice Beam or a Shadow Ball. At this point, I probably should just let the Tyrunt go down, so I'm going to no-shield this. Of course, Venusaur does have a lot of energy already banked. I'm hoping Gyarados can come in and get a full Dragon Breath farm down just before they reach a Shadow Ball, but barely not able to do so. They get damage registration error there. I'm going to no-shield. They full send the Shadow Ball, and now it's all up to Tyrantrum here. Let's see what it can do. The opponent actually comes in with a Shadow Typhlosion, and this is huge for me. I'm going to resist everything here. I'm going to completely wall them, so I'm going to no-shield. But that Thunder Punch did way too much damage. What the heck was even that? Honestly, I just completely underestimated just how glassy this Pokemon is. And as a result, we go for Meteor Beam there. They use their final shield. And they didn't even have to throw a charge move there. They could just fully farm me down, and I lose that game. Oh, that was so painful, but I felt like I had to save my shields there as Venusaur was already loaded. But anyways, GG's to that opponent there. Into the next battle, another Grumpig in the lead. So once again, I'm going to overfarm, fire off the Aquatail, winning CMP. And again, I'm just going to let Gyarados go down here. They full send the Shadow Ball. Now we can come in with the Tyrunt, and I'm going to look to fully farm them down. Now, of course, I could have gone for the Dragon Claw on the CMP type, but instead going for the farm down, and the opponent swaps out into their forest. So I'm going to go for another Dragon Claw here. Dragon Claw, not going to do too much damage, but a second one probably will get the KO here. So I'm expecting a shield from the opponent, but the opponent does not shield, and not only that, they actually commit to the Trailblaze as well. As I swap out there, I thought I was going to catch a Swift, and unfortunately that was not the case, but their final Pokemon is going to be a Venomoth, a Pokemon that I definitely did not expect to see. Going to go straight for a Crunch here. Crunch, going to be shielded by the opponent, and at this point I have to let the Tyrunt go down. The opponent fires off the Poison Fang, getting the KO from that range, and all I have to do is watch out for a catch from the opponent, and I'm able to do exactly that. Hold on to the energy. Now we can fire off the Ancient Power. Ancient Power gets the KO there, and I'm surprised I didn't get an unnecessary boost there with the Ancient Power, but either way, we get the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there. Into next battle, you can see a Dragonite in the lead. So, of course, Dragon Breaths are absolutely chunking them. They will win CMP in this matchup. So, that's why I'm just going to shield here and then commit to a full Dragon Breath farm down. The opponent's going to come in with a Powder Snow Frost Sash, so definitely not as ideal for me. So I'm going to go for the Crunch, and then going to swap straight away into my Tyrunt, and we bait out a Primate. Now, the opponent is probably not going to go straight for a close combat here, or even an Ice Punch there. They just go straight for the Rage Fist. So as a result, I'm able to go for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw going to be no shielded. They do get the Powder Snow farm down, and they are ahead on energy, but Tyrantrum just hits so damn hard with the Dragon Tails. I'm going to shield the first move. They go for Triple Axle, boosting up their attack there, which is not ideal, but we've put them into 1 HP range here, which means even if they shield, it doesn't matter as it KOs through the shield, as it still does 1 damage, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there. Into the next battle, we see Aurorus in the lead here. So, we're going to stay in this matchup. I'm not going to throw straight away. I don't want to throw on alignment, and this is not enough energy for the Meteor Beam. So, I no shield, but they're on Ancient Power, and it gets the KO, and that's probably just game over at this point. We're going to come in with the Tyrants here. I should be able to shield once and hopefully fully farm them down here. And I am just barely able to do so. But just the Powder Snows gets us into the yellow health range. And they've got a Grumpig here. So we're going to go for the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw going to be shielded by the opponent. And at this point, I might as well go for the Ancient Power. It's going to do slightly more damage in this matchup, but I will be forced to swap into my Tyrantrum here. The opponent is going to fire for Charge Move. I should be able to Dragon Tail farm them down. I'm hoping I can. They actually go for Shadow Ball, so I could definitely go for the farm down there, but it doesn't really help me as they've got a Jump Luff in the back. The opponent outpaces me. They go for Acrobatics. That's resisted damage, but it doesn't matter. It does huge damage to the very glassy Tyrantrum. I full send the Meteor Beam, just hoping we can land one of them in this video, but unfortunately, it's not going to be in this battle. So the opponent fires off the Aerial Ace, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's up on there. Into next battle, we see a Shadow Dragonair in the lead. So once again, good lead matchup for me. All we have to do here is shield once and farm down. But instead, I'm actually going to swap, assuming they're going for a Body Slam here, as Body Slam would be neutral into the Gyarados, whilst Aqua Tail would be resisted. But we bait out a Dugong, so kind of needed to do this, but not really ideal for me. I'm going to throw on CMP. Ancient Power is not respected though, and that is huge for me. It puts them into farm down range for either of my Pokemon. However, I think they might be double eyes, so what I'm going to do is come in with my Gyarados. I don't want to reveal my final Pokemon. I kind of need shields down on the opponent's end, and I'm able to Dragon Breath farm them down, but they've got a Talonflame, and once again, unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to land a Meteor Beam, but Shadow Tyrantrum is going to do Shadow Tyrantrum things, as all we have to do here is just double shield. The opponent probably just going to bait me. They go for Fly there. Of course, I don't know if they're on Flame Charge or Brave Bird as the other move, but it's irrelevant at this point, as we can go for the farm down, so the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's up on there. Into the next battle, we see Typhlosion in the lead, and once again, we're going to swap and catch a Thunder Punch onto my Tyrunt here, as the opponent goes for Thunder Punch. That is resisted damage, and now they swap into a Shadow Amoonguss. Now, I'm hoping the opponent will throw a Charge Move here, just because if I shield, I can then reach a second Dragon Claw, but the opponent does commit to a full farm down. That is definitely the smart play, and unfortunately, I do not reach a second Dragon Claw. The opponent going to fire for Charge Move here. I'm going to shield the first one, and then if they throw straight away, it will just be back-to-back foul plays. So I'm happy to let the next move go through. Foul play number 2 gets us very low, but I can just barely Dragon Breath farm them down, and I was expecting probably not going to be the Typhlosion coming back in, so I go for the crunch there, and it drops their defense, and that is absolutely huge for me. But they are now going to debuff my attack. So the opponent fires off the Icy Wind, they're going to swap back into Typhlosion, and now I'm going to go for a Crunch here. Crunch is obviously going to get the KO from this range, so the opponent used their final shield, but we drop their defense again, and I'm able to Dragon Tail farm them down as a result. The opponent trying to commit to a Blast Burn, but now we can go for the Meteor Beam. We finally land it. It didn't really matter. I could have definitely settled for a Crunch at that point, but I just wanted to land a single Meteor Beam, and we're able to do so. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next battle, we see a Shadow for Alligator in the lead. So we're going to stay in this matchup initially. They go straight for a Hydro Cannon, which is resisted damage. However, you're going to see that it doesn't look resisted there. We then swap, and again, the opponent swaps at the same time into Dewgong. Not really ideal. This time, I am going to bait them just because I've not taken a Charge Reef yet, so if the opponent now throws, I should be able to shield once and then go for an Ancient Power, and even though they debuffed me here, Ancient Power is super effective damage. It should be enough to get the KO, so Ancient Power does get the KO up against the Dewgong. They come back in with Feraligatr, and unfortunately they will reach a Charge Reef, but they swap into their final Pokemon, but it's going to be a Gastrodon, and not really ideal for me. I'm going to go for the Crunch here. Crunch, going to be shielded. We swap into Gyarados, but the opponent very smart there, just throwing blind, knowing we're going to swap out into our Gyarados. That forces the final shield, and at this point, there's not a lot we can do here. I can just barely get the KO. However, Feraligatr will come out with a Charge Reef loaded. They're going to throw it into Tyrantrum coming back in, and of course, Hydro Cannon takes us out there, and unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG's to opponent there. Into next battle, we see a Ferret in the lead this time around, so we are going to stay in this matchup initially, and I'm going to go straight for an Aquatail. So Aquatail is going to be no shielded. I'm now going to swap, hoping to catch a Swift onto my Tyrunt, and the opponent does go for Swift, so that is resisted damage, and the opponent maybe not even reaching another Charge Reef there, forced to swap out into their Dusclops. So I'm going for the Dragon Claw here. The reason I go for Dragon Claw as I can reach a second... Excuse me there, as I can reach a second Dragon Claw now. I mean, to be honest, I could have gone for the Ancient Power first anyways, doesn't really matter too much, but either way, Dragon Claw, gonna get the KO from that range, the opponent not wanting to use their shields, but they come back in with Ferret before revealing a Grumpig. So at this point, I do throw a Charge Reef here, but I realize actually instead, it's going to be fast move damage that's going to win me this game. So I swap into Gyarados, basically just force the opponent to throw a Charge Reef here to get the KO, and now we can come in with the Tyrantrum. The opponent can fire for Charge Reef, but they throw it on very poor timing, giving a full Dragon Tail in for free, and that's certainly going to do it for me as the opponent recognizing there's nothing they can do anymore, and so they just concede the match. So, GG's to opponent into the final battle of this video, leading into a Rangaroo. So we're going to stay in this matchup initially, and I could go for a Crunch here. I probably will actually, so I'm going to no-shield the first move. The opponent fires off the Brutal Swing, and I can go for a Crunch. Of course, Crunch going to hit for super effective damage. It should be grabbing a shield. I'm hoping for a defense drop. It does not happen, but it doesn't really matter. Tyrunt can come in, shield once, and then fully Dragon Tail farm them down. So we get the full farm down there. Let's see what the opponent wants to do. They're going to come in with a Shadow for Alligator. So I'm actually going to go for the Ancient Power here as it will do more damage. And Ancient Power is enough damage to get the KO. They come in with a Clodsire, and this should now be game over. As of course, we can go for the Dragon Claw, grab the final shield. We can come in with a Tyrantrum. I wanted to go for the Meteor Beam there, but the opponent just concedes the match. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.